Good evening. I am Melissa Vance with the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to fill in as host of the In Focus Candidate Forums this evening. We have a great conversation lined up for you, and we're thrilled that you're joining us to educate yourself a little bit more about our election process and the candidates, and make sure that you go to the polls educated and ready to vote. Before we get started, I want to give you a little bit of information about things to come. Next Thursday, we will be back here. Tony Foster will be hosting the forums next week with U.S. Representative District 6 candidates, and that will be at 6 p.m. again. And then a couple weeks later, it is time for the primary election. Tuesday, May 7th, that will be held live in Whitewater Hall in the lobby, and there'll be lots of action that evening. Often the candidates join us and they wait for the results to come in. Jeff Carter from Bethany Theological Seminary will be sitting in my typical role that evening, along with Eric Marsh from Whitewater Community Television. Then we have absentee voting information up there on the screen for you. You can actually go vote now if you know who you want to vote and vote for. And so the different locations are up there on the screen. You can always go to the county's website, which is co.wayne.in.us, clerk voters reg, if you could remember all that, or just search for it. The Election Day voting centers are now up on the screen, and that's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and there are sites all over the county. Find the one that's most convenient for you and make sure you get there before 6 p.m. to vote. Lastly, I want to invite you to join us in Vivian Hall right here on the IU East campus next Friday evening, April 19th at 6 p.m. We will be hosting the very first National Civics Bee here in Wayne County that Wayne County will be hosting, and the first one in Indiana. This year, we are so excited to have middle school students learning more about how the government functions. And we have 20 finalists that will be competing that evening for cash prizes. We would love for you to come and cheer them on. Wear your red, white, and blue and be a part of the fun. So, as you join us this evening and we have these conversations with candidates, you have an opportunity to have your question answered if it's not already been asked and posed to the candidates, rather. So you can go onto Facebook Live and send your question in. The studio will be monitoring those and sending those through to us during the program, and we'd love to have you participate in that way, and we will pose those questions for our candidates. I want to thank Whitewater Community Television and Western Wayne News, along with the Chamber of Commerce, for co-hosting and co-sponsoring this series to educate you. And I am joined here in the studio with our candidates for Commissioner District 2. Thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Aaron Roberts on this side and Jeff Wheeler on this side. Just appreciate you putting your names on the ballot and being a part of the process, and additionally spending a little bit of time with us this evening.
Well, thank you.
So I want to give you first a minute to tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you've decided to run for the office. So Aaron, let's start with you.
Sure. So my name is Aaron Roberts, and I've just recently retired out of law enforcement after 25 years, and I'm now currently a public safety director for Ivy Tech here in Richmond. Through my years, I've worked a lot of different jobs. I've done a lot of things in public service. I've done either public service or public relations type of jobs, and that's just really where my heart is. I enjoy being with people. I've spent 3 years in restaurant management. I've spent 6 years as an associate pastor at a couple different churches. I've spent 30 years in music ministry all across the country, in Canada and Mexico, singing in quartets and trios and solo as well. The last 9 years I've coached golf for one of our local high schools. The last 6 years I've been an insurance agent. I've served 6 years on the Richmond BZA board and the Planning Commission here in Richmond, which I was appointed to, and I just feel like I have a unique perspective of county commissioner, from not only just being experienced and spending time in Wayne County, but also working for Wayne County for 13 of those 25 years in law enforcement when I was on the sheriff's office. But most importantly, I'd like to thank Whitewater Valley Community Television, the Chamber, Western Wayne News, and most importantly, thank you for watching and learning more about who the candidates are, so when you do go to the polls, you vote educated. I really appreciated my time here in Wayne County, and I have a true heart for people, and I just am excited to be able to serve if elected as commissioner.
Great, thank you. Jeff?
Hi, my name is Jeff Wheeler. Apologize for the voice, it's a nerve issue. I came from humble beginnings. My mom and dad were working in Indianapolis, and they decided they wanted to become antique dealers. So they picked out Centerville out of a long research process, and we moved here when I was a little boy, and I grew up in the area, and we've been running the antique shop now for 54 years. I then also went to Purdue University, and got an engineering degree, practiced engineer for quite a while with defense companies on the West Coast. And at that point, I decided I wanted to do something different. I went to law school. So I was a patent attorney dealing with all kinds of technology companies for 20 to 25 years. And I moved back to Centerville because I just couldn't stay away from it. The whole time I was always dreaming about coming back, and I did. So Centerville and Wayne County, to me, is the home that I've always had. And I believe strongly in small businesses and large businesses, of course, but the small business culture is something that I want to foster and create more opportunities and less headaches and less loopholes that people have to jump through to stay in business. Of course, we've had very good luck in Wayne County with attracting large business, the food companies and the plastics and all that. Fantastic stuff. I'd like to encourage more of that. The infrastructure that supports that is lower housing. One of the concerns is people moving away. I did that because there's what they call the brain drain. Kids get a degree and then they move away. I think I can uniquely focus on the things that would attract people and kids to stay here after their degrees, and try to build up the community in that regard. And again, my experience with technology companies, I'd really like to see technology companies coming to this area, along with the heavy industry and the manufacturing and production that we see now. So I bring that unique perspective to the position, and I've always wanted to serve in government. Never ran for a position before other than high school, and I'm here to serve the county if you vote for me on May 7th in the primaries.
Thank you, Jeff. So I want to do something a little unique because I want to make sure that our viewers understand what the role of a commissioner is. So just briefly, I want to ask a couple questions to you to help clarify that for our viewers. So Aaron, tell them what the difference between a commissioner and a council person is.
Sure. So the biggest difference between a county commissioner and a county council person is the county council actually takes care of the financial side of the county. They do all the budgets. They allow the departments to approve their budgets on what they spend. They're basically the ones that hold the checkbook for the county and approve those expenditures for the county. The county commissioners is an executive branch of government for the county, and they work on county policies. They work on the county employee relations. They have responsibility for the roads, the bridges, different things that they're obligated by statute to take care of. have. But the county commissioner is more of an executive branch of government, where the county council is the fiscal branch.
Great, thank you. And Jeff, how do you see these two offices coexisting and working collaboratively?
Well, one of the things that I've seen in Washington, of course, the country, is the division between the two different parties. And if, two Republicans or three Republicans are all on both sides, then you're probably going to get more of an easy agreement between them. But if you've got party differences on the other side, then it's a very important thing for us to cut through the reality that people might be disagreeing with a policy simply because it comes from the other side per se. And I really think at all levels we need to cut through that, and that's just going to be open communication, and everybody saying, put aside that reality and try to get your head around what's good for the county and what's good for everybody in the county. And maybe at a local level we can achieve some of that and it can siphon up to the higher levels, but it is about as bad as it's ever been, in the time I've been alive.
Yeah, there is definitely a political divide now. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the how the commissioners work with council?
Well, honestly, I'm new to this position, if I'm elected, and I would have to learn more on the job. I honestly am not that well versed in how the direct interactions work between council and commissioner. I honestly would have to learn more about that on the job.
Sure. Okay. Well, I want to move into discussions about some of the funding that has been coming into our community. Today, we learned, and many of you haven't even seen the announcement yet, that our region was awarded $35 million from the state for economic development opportunities, and that will be further defined as to what actually comes to Wayne County. But several areas of funding have been coming to Wayne County, including the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA as we know it. You both will be playing a role in distributing the allocation of those dollars to many of the projects that have already been identified through HELP grant process over the last few years. And then also we have Earlham College that will be implementing a large grant from Lilly. And then and others that are seeming to come together. How might we leverage those dollars for further growth? And Jeff, I'll start with you this time.
Well, the key to further growth is building something in the county of infrastructure that people want to come to and people want to be a part of. If you attract businesses, you're going to give more jobs, and more jobs are going to attract more housing. And the people working in these jobs and living in this housing are all going to have to spend their money on groceries and fast food and various things. So we would need to build infrastructure, better housing, more affordable housing, better roads, better bridges, address some of the neglect that has been going on with some of the bridges and the projects, maybe anticipate that it's going to need to be done sooner or later, and now's the time because we've got the funding. Better roads, of course. You saw a lot of the road work being done in Richmond, and I think a lot of that was due to the new plant, the Blue Buffalo plant, because they needed more solid structures underneath the roads to handle the trucks. So I think funding needs to go to the infrastructure to attract everything I just described.
Okay, great. Aaron, do you need me to repeat the question, or?
No, ma'am.
Good.
Thank you. I really have appreciated, first of all, so to go back a little bit for history, for some things that have recently just happened that the commissioners have looked at and approved one is the Elder Beerman project.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand and know that the money that was spent to Elder Beerman project came from the ARPA grant, and because they spent that money, we were able to get the Lilly grant at Earlham College. That is really what pushed and helped that to happen. And so as we look forward to continually looking for grants and looking for money, and I will say the commissioners have done a really good job at that. They've done a great job the last couple of years looking for the extra money that we're awarded from the state and from the federal government, and those dollars have been used very wisely. But I know a lot of people looked at the Elder Bierman project as kind of like an eyesore, or like the Reed project that kind of, a lot of folks are still a little bit upset with the way that was handled. But the Elder Bierman project, because we invested that money, we're able to get other money and other dollars within our community. And so as long as we continue to go on, depending on what we're allowed to spend the money on, that's coming in with the $35 million, I'm 100% agreeable to set aside some money or invest in some projects where later down the road we can use that as monies to receive in off of other grants as well. Because I know a lot of time getting a grant, sometimes we have to spend money to get a grant or to get extra money. And I thought we've done a very good job doing that, honestly.
Great. Thank you. Aaron, I'm going to stick with you for a minute and talk about the Ready 1.0 grant. And that was also a piece of that Elder Bierman property. Indiana, with the first regional allocation, awarded higher dollar amounts to regions that were identified as already growing. How can you as a commissioner and we as a community invest and make sure that we are growing and eligible for those higher dollar amounts in the future?
I really believe there are three areas that are really critical in helping with that. One is the chamber. Two is the EDC, and then the other is the Tourism Bureau. And I believe the three different areas that they serve is a great way to market. One, Wayne County. Two, I believe that is those three offices are huge a role into bringing in business, bringing in keeping our population where it needs to be, and continually helping the commissioners to apply for some of these grants and accept some of these grants. Quite frankly, those three departments have been priceless and have worked very hard. Your office is one of those, and it's very well noticed, and we need to continue those relationships with those three and continue to work with them. And I believe those are three key factors in moving forward in marketing Wayne County and moving forward with it.
Great, thank you. Jeff? Do you want me to repeat the question for you?
Sure, please.
In Ready 1.0 grant, Indiana awarded higher dollar amounts to regions they identified as already growing. What can you do to help grow our community so we're eligible for future funding?
So everybody has to ask themselves the question, why does anybody want to live somewhere? Why do they want to live in a town? Well, they want to live there because it's safe. They're not going to get robbed. They're not going to get their car stolen or mugged going to the store. So, we have to concentrate on high levels of protection in the police force. And at that point, people are going to say, okay, it's a safe place to live. The next thing is, how are the schools? Is my kid going to get the education that they need, or are there pockets of schools that are not doing as well as the others? We need to identify those, and we need to look at the parameters, and we need to build their criteria up to the point where they're meeting the satisfaction of people that might want to move into the area. And the third would be housing. Houses in this area have been relatively affordable, and I've seen various polls that say, top 10 polls in Forbes or People magazine, Richmond, Indiana came in at the top of some of those polls. And I think it was because of the housing costs. But of course, with the recent rise in housing costs, we're starting to maybe get priced out of being the cheapest place to live. So we would need to focus on, particularly just straight up Keynesian supply and demand curves if you got more supply, your demand is going to make the prices lower. And if we got less supply, then demand is going to make the prices higher. So we need to build more housing. We need to make it the kind of place that people want to live for those three reasons.
Great, thank you. One of the questions that I had for you both this evening was in regard to housing. So I'm going to stick there for a minute, and I'll give you an opportunity to add anything you want to add, and then Aaron, I'll give you a chance to answer. Wayne County clearly has a housing supply issue, as you mentioned. We have too much substandard housing and not enough stock to meet demands. What should the county do to address this need?
Well, I guess the first thing would be to categorize exactly what you talked about. People talk about it in generic terms, but they may not really know exactly where and what you're talking about. So we would need to identify it, categorize it, and then identify the areas that are substandard and say, what can we do out of this budget, in the most cost-effective manner to bring these up to par? Is it going to be simply a coat of paint on the buildings? Is it going to be eliminate the drug dealers on the corner? Is it going to be clear out maybe homeless encampments? My God, the people need a place to live, but some of those can be a huge eyesore. My experience in California, that wasn't exactly what happened with San Francisco and Los Angeles. You've got to accommodate these people and you've got to care for them, but you can't just let them run over the city. So I think if we identify the problems, we can put money to the individual problems. I think, again, crime and appearance and, infrastructure of our streets and potholes and all that kind of thing.
Great, thank you. Aaron?
I believe Wayne County has a great resource with a lot of our realtors in the area. A lot of them know what our housing needs are. A lot of them know the folks moving in looking for houses. They're the ones being contacted. I believe that the best way to go about our housing situation is, one, meet with those folks and find out where's our true need. Is our true need at the average house cost, or is it the higher level housing that we need? And I know talking with some of them and seeing some of the needs in the community, I believe that's where we are. I think we're right about the average and the higher end house needs because we lack in that area. And the best way to go about it is to meet with them and find out our needs, and then move forward and try to find contractors in the area who are willing to help build, who are willing to help make a difference. And I don't believe that county government should be purchasing real estate just to build houses on. I believe that should be a private entity doing that, because that's how a lot of folks make their living. Some of these tax sale houses, I'm hoping that some folks come in, some contractors come in and fix up those homes and are able to resell those. But I believe we need to really work on the home building industry in Wayne County. I know it's dropped off a little bit, and a lot of it is cost of housing and then cost of materials, and then being able to find laborers. Those are the two biggest issues that they're running against right now. And along with that, we have some great community, some great colleges and universities right here in Wayne County. And, a couple of them teach, housing, and they teach building, teach air conditioner, heating, electrical. They teach all of that and are certified workers to do that. And promoting those skills and those educational lines, I think, is where we need to go as well.
Great, thank you. Aaron, I want to stick with you and ask you the next one. Over the last few years, either due to tax caps or other action from the state, some sources of funding have been reduced. Do you believe there are other sources of funds that the county should consider, whether in the form of a local tax or another source? And if so, tell us a little bit more about that.
There are fundings out there, and there's been a lot of conversations about other taxes that could be implemented for Wayne County. Honestly, though, right now, I believe Wayne County sits financially very well. And even without all the extra funding that we've been able to receive through the state and the federal government, I believe Wayne County financial. Again, the commissioners and the council have done an awesome job in budgeting and watching our spending, and they're not spending things wastefully and doing a great job. And I believe right now that even though we have been decreased on some of our funding from the state because of tax caps. But however, I believe that Wayne County does a great job budgeting our money, and at this time, I really don't believe that we are in need of any tax raises.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, I agree on the no tax raises. I looked at a chart of the rates for the various counties of Indiana, and Wayne County is a little higher than some of the other ones. So I think we need to avoid in any way increasing the overall tax rate for the county. And that parlays to the fact that, people are going to look at that when they want to move somewhere. And you see evidence of that at the more broad scale with people moving away from the 14% tax that they pay in California to zero tax rate in Texas and zero tax rate in Washington, zero tax rate in Florida, state tax anyway. And so keeping the taxes lower is going to be a key thing to growth. Now, one thing I did see with Reed trying to attract better and better physicians was they were putting money, private funds, into the country club out there. And that was an interesting reality because that was private money that they wanted to put to improve the country club to make it more attractive for people that might want to move here. And that's another thing that we need to address. I mean, you can have a low-priced house, you can have a job at Blue Buffalo, but if there's nothing to do every night, or if there's nothing that entertaining to fit the measure of the kind of people we want to bring in, then they may not come here as a result of that. So entertainment and the infrastructure there is another key factor. And again, private funds could come from any industry that cares enough to build up that entertainment reality or that housing reality to the tune of bringing in better people and better workers.
Sticking with that for a minute, Jeff, what are you willing to do in regard to beautification around the county to attract investment and residents and employees to come here?
Well, one thing that can be done, you can't hire enough people to do it. You can't afford it, and you can't. It just doesn't work. So the key and easy thing to do is just get the community involved. If each house cares about their bushes, and each house cares about the pollution or the trash that's running around, each person picks up one or two things and throws away every time they see it, you've got an army of people. You've got the population in the entire county working towards a common goal. And that doesn't cost the county anything. It's very little effort on each person's part. But, spending a lot of money to hire a bunch of people to come and clean things up, I don't think that's a solution. I think education, getting people involved, getting them out there with pride in their heart to keep the community clean and good.
Great. Aaron, thoughts?
I agree a lot of the same lines. One of my biggest things that I've shared and I've talked about since I've put my name on the ballot is bringing all of our communities together, making Wayne County strong together. A lot of times, and again, out talking to a lot of folks, a lot of people feel left out in these small communities. They feel like Wayne County government kind of forgets about them, and they focus on Richmond, they feel like sometimes. And I know Richmond sometimes feel like Wayne County forgets about them, even as much as they partner together on a lot of different projects. But, bringing all the communities together, working together throughout the communities, being available to all the communities, as commissioner, if elected, my plan is to be totally accessible, not just sit around and wait for a phone call from somebody, but actually being involved in these different communities around the county. We've got some great people in Wayne County. We got some great people in these small communities that work hard and do a great job, and to continue to encourage them and help them move forward. I believe the biggest thing is it's going to start with the communities, and it's going to start with the folks in the communities and getting their trust back and helping them to really feel valued.
Great. Thank you. Well, we are about halfway through the hour with our candidates for Commissioner District 2, and I want to remind you that if you have questions that you would like to ask, feel free to send those in on Facebook, and we will pose those to the candidates during our time with them today. Aaron, the county has recently focused on facility upgrades. What are your priorities in regard to capital improvements?
I know that, it wasn't too long ago, they just remodeled the chamber in County Council chamber just in the last couple of years, which is, things should have been done maybe through the years instead of all at once, like it was. But, I believe, they've been working really hard on the fairgrounds. They've spent some money on the fairgrounds through some of the grants we've received. And I really believe our fairgrounds is still, and a lot of people have said this, it's a great place out there. They're in the middle of moving out the air conditioner and the heating units out of the large building. And First Bank has really responded and really helped out with the fairgrounds, along with some of the grant money we've received. We've been able to really do some real nice upgrades at the county fairgrounds. And I really believe that, I think we're moving really well there. And I believe that needs to be done so that we can showcase Wayne County. When we start marketing Wayne County, we want a place for them to go when we market them. And so having a place for people to go, to have conferences, to have meetings, it's huge to be able to have that venue out there. I believe the next thing we need to work on is parking, though, because if anybody's attended any event at the fairgrounds, even just one of those buildings being used, it seems like there's a few cars that have to park in the grass, and if you're parking in the grass today, you're might get stuck or leave some ruts or walk through the mud. And so, if we're really serious about using the fairgrounds and renting out those buildings, we need to work on parking. They just ordered some chairs, they've ordered new tables, and have really made some great improvements. And they just started a marketing individual that has been out there for less than a year now, or right about a year, and she's doing a great job. And I really believe she's working hard and bringing in some events to the fairgrounds. And that's what's going to happen when we spend money in Wayne County and we show that we're progressive and we're current. That's when people want to come, and that's when people want to visit, and that's when people want to spend some time here and maybe host, a convention or a meeting here. Right.
Jeff, other thoughts?
I think it would be a good idea to collectively look at all of the facilities that need to be addressed and take a look at the ones that need the most help and what we can do in a most cost-effective way to help that particular facility. For instance, a coat of paint goes a long way. Cleaning up bushes or trash or this or that, getting eyesores out of the way of somebody driving by, all of these are fairly low-cost things, as opposed to perhaps rebuilding a whole facility or tearing up an old facility to redesign it. I'm not opposed to that, but I just think the least amount of cost for the most amount of benefit should be weighed carefully on each of these facility projects.
Sure. So several years ago, there was discussion about a convention center in Wayne County, and the fairgrounds has been mentioned at times as a potential site. And so just to toss that out to the two of you while we're here, do you think that Wayne County needs a convention center? We've talked a lot tonight about how we bring people in. Is that something that's needed?
I think it could be a great thing. A convention center could be used for all kinds of things besides quote unquote conventions. My mom and dad used to do antique shows all the time. And I know people are into antique shows, so that would be a good thing. It could be Comic-Con. I know people wait years and spend hundreds of dollars on these tickets for Comic-Con, and they can't go to San Diego, so they go to Indy and then they go to Dayton. There's a plethora of ideas that could be worked to fill a convention center type space. And so I think, yeah, with a little imagination, it could really bring in some entertainment value and also revenue, because every one of those things has concessions and perhaps an entrance fee on the tickets and maybe even parking and that kind of thing. So, I mean, you know, you don't want to build it too big because then you've got this big open space, but something that would, upon research, fill the void the size that we think this area could handle, it'd be a great thing.
Okay. Aaron, thoughts on that?
I've always thought that we're missing out not having a great convention center location. Not only, you know, like Jeff said, for conventions, but there's a lot of large companies here in Wayne County that try to have large, you know, company meetings, and there's just not a lot of places to be able for them to have those meetings. They cram in areas that they're overcrowded to try to get in their meetings, but a convention center would go a long way. And you know, when we talk about the population decline in Wayne County, I mean that is something. When we can draw folks into Wayne County for an event with a convention center, number one, that's going to boost our economy. You know, that's raising our tax base without implementing new taxes, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to, and that goes right along with, you know, building our current businesses, continually building on them, bringing in new businesses, you know, bringing people here to live. And when they come and visit, then we showcase Wayne County, and then they fall in love with Wayne County and they want to stay. You know, that would be a great goal to have. But I really believe that could happen. And so, you know, and that's the best way how to raise our tax base without raising taxes at this point too.
Great. You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television. I'm Melissa Vance, and we're here with the candidates for Commissioner District 2. The next place I want to go is in regard to, lost my place, in regard to main streets across the county. You mentioned the various communities working together and feeling that the county cares about them and they're not being left behind. A significant part of the HELP grant was allocating funds to building owners in the main street corridors around the county. Do you anticipate adding to this fund in the future for further development? Aaron, I'll start with you on this one.
Sure. Depending on, you know, how the communities respond, but again, you know, it goes back to their trust, you know, with county government, and I'm hoping that those bridges can be repaired and built to where we have a great relationship with our smaller communities, and when they know we're helping invest in their community, that they're willing to help pull their part of the end and do their part. And as long as we continue to move forward and we can see some progress, I don't have any problem with continually investing in our small communities, our Main Street areas. I think that's a great showcase for us.
Yeah, I agree that those areas should be funded to a degree, as far as making sure that the funding goes towards what the potential future shopkeeper is promising. You know, I don't know any specifics, but I do know of some projects around here that seem to have been taken on by individuals, and then they never turned into be what they were supposed to be. And I would really get angry if something like that were to happen with funds, taxpayer funds. So, you know, you build up the Main Street reality. That's, of course, where our antique shops are, and I grew up right on Main Street. And it's hard to get people oftentimes to go off of Main Street. You try, but an antique shop can fail a couple blocks over, but Main Street is a key thing. So all the businesses want to be on Main Street, and so you've got to build up old buildings that are falling apart. You've got to give them funding, match funding perhaps. They do part, we do part, and then hold them to the promise that they're going to put a pie shop or something in there for X amount of years, you know, before they run off with the funds and do something else. So I would that would be the key thing I would want to avoid.
Okay, great. Regarding economic development, how should the commissioners facilitate cooperation and collaboration between the cities and towns throughout the county? And are there any examples that you would provide?
Well, I think Aaron touched on the fact that we need to get communities to not view each other as separate communities, but as part of the whole county. And so I know Centerville doesn't have a mayor, but maybe they could send one of their council people, a chosen one, to meet with a chosen person from another city and another city, and maybe regular meetings in our convention center where people get together and they talk about the concerns of their own particular community and what we all could do collectively to bring up that particular thing or the like. But I think communication is the key thing. I don't see why anybody from any of those communities would not want to talk about their issues and their problems and get perhaps best solutions from somebody else and move towards a better future. I don't think there's any competition between communities, but sometimes friendly competition is good. Maybe a blood drive or Cambridge versus Centerville or whatever, but those kind of things bring camaraderie, albeit competition, but camaraderie.
Sure.
So perhaps events like that.
Sure. Aaron, what are your thoughts? How do you foster collaboration?
First of all, you got to build good, positive relationships, and good, positive relationships turn into trust, and trust turns into a great relationship, and then you're able to work together. And you've got to start a good, positive relationship, and a good, positive relationship is all about being transparent, being totally open with people, and not trying to do things maliciously by any means. Transparency listens and hears and responds, but also answers the question why. And a lot of times I think, a lot of folks say I'm transparent, but they forget to answer the question why when decisions are being made. And I think it's very important to answer that question why. And that's, again, one of my key factors is being transparent in anything I do. I will listen. I will, wholeheartedly and with everything I have when people have concerns, when people have needs, and then if the commissioners are able to help in any way, or if there's a decision to be made on that, not only will that decision be made, but I will also say why and be available to and accessible to anybody that wants to hear that or have that conversation.
In regard to transparency, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, how do you rank the county's efforts in transparency now? Where do we score?
I think we're about a 6 or 7. I think we're about right in there. And the reason I say that is just like the Elder Beerman project, when they spent that money, a lot of people were critical about that and really didn't like it. But when you found out why they did that, it makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, we were getting more money on the backside when we spent that money on the Elder Beerman project, when we were willing to give up that money. And sometimes I think the why is just totally like, oh, well, that makes sense now. And that's total transparency. And I think sometimes government in general just forgets, they make decisions, but they don't always say, this is why we made this decision. Sure. And any decision that would be made or voted on by me would be 100%, based on the people of Wayne County, their needs, and where we're at as a county to help us grow and make Wayne County better.
Great. Jeff, what do you think? Where do we score right now?
I would say it's about 6 or 7. People many times, again, don't understand why something's being done. And I always prided myself when I worked with inventors to try to tell them why I'm doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Once they understood the reality of why they had to put all this extra time from their job into this extra thing called a patent, they would really get excited and they would understand, oh, I get it now. This is going to increase the bottom line of the company or the like. So letting people know these kind of things, if they ask, if they're there, is of course key, and Aaron touched on that. The other thing is maybe all of this was available to them if they would have just come to meetings or the like, but a lot of times people can't do that. So is there some way that we can condense or give a Reader's Digest version of everything that happens in a publicly transmitted way, a website or in Western Wayne News or the like, but somewhere where people can read in a paragraph or two and know, oh, that's why they're building the convention center. Oh, that's why. And I think people would go to that and read it and learn But going to the meeting and sitting through the pomp and circumstance of that, they don't want to do it. So we need to provide them a way to know that's more palatable to them.
Sure. Some cliff notes.
Yes.
What do you think is working well in this office right now, and what should be changed?
Not sure how much effect the county commissioner can apply to this, but what I really want to see are kids being shown that there are jobs out there that they need to go for, and a plumber, electrician, going to college necessarily isn't always the right thing to do. If you go to college for a sociology degree or psychology degree, you could do very well with that. You could become the next Dr. Phil and make millions of dollars, but more than likely that job is going to be hard row in the future. So there are jobs and situations out there that kids need to know that to have the house that they're living in and the cars that they want and the future family that they potentially are dreaming of having, it comes with a normal job, a job that is out there and pays money and is part of the future of the country. You don't want to be a telegraph operator now. It's computers, it's programming. So kids may realize that, but I think I'm seeing evidence that they don't. They all think that, you can make money on the internet, you can make TikTok videos and this and that, and I don't think that's the way, and I think firemen, policemen, doctors, lawyers ought to go in and teach them and say, look, this is hard. And if you don't want to do that, I've got good friends that are plumbers. And my God, you're never going to outsource that to China. There's no way you can have AI come in and fix the plumbing or you're going to outsource it to China. So there's realities there that those are solid jobs. They'll be here forever. And we need them. We don't have enough people in those jobs. So trying to teach the kids that.
Sure. Aaron, what do you think is working well, and where can we improve?
As far as the county commissioners, again, I think that they do a wonderful job on getting the state and federal funding, the extra fundings that they've been able to get through some grants. They have been awarded a lot of dollars over the last few years and have done tremendous in that aspect. And they've done a great job spending some to acquire more. And they've made some really good decisions on those things. I really believe the most improvement is back to just communication and getting back to the public and letting them know. Not only some people don't even know what decisions the commissioners are making. To set up a Facebook account for the commissioners, anything like that to get the message out. I know the minutes are posted on the county website almost the day of that afternoon or the next morning, the minutes, but to put just cliff notes like you said,
right.
Put that on Facebook or social media, somewhere where people can see, here's the decisions being made and here's the conversation that was had about it and here's the decision that was made. To have something like that available to the public on social media. And I know Western Wayne does a great job covering our local government meetings. I mean, they are at every government meeting across the county, and they keep very busy just doing that. But I believe that's where we could really work at.
Sure. So I want to talk about expenses a little bit. With inflation on the rise and supply chain interruptions, what measures do you feel can be taken to ensure that the county expenses are in check?
There's a lot of inflation that's happened in the last 5 years specifically. From your food to the gas to building materials, everything has gone up, and it's been incredible. The cost of living that has gone up. However, I believe the main thing that will help keep in check is working with county council and partnering with county council. I believe the 7-member county council and the 3 commissioners working together as a team of 10, which I've heard used several times this year already, is very important, that they talk and they work together and to voice their opinions and voice what the folks of Wayne County want and need. And I believe that's really what's going to keep us in check and keeping connected to the communities and hearing the communities, not just, like I say, sitting around waiting on a phone call. Somebody say, hey, I'm waiting on somebody to call me on what Hagerstown needs or whatever. Go to Hagerstown, go to their town meeting, go to their town board meeting, find out, and sit through some of those meetings and find out what they're working on and what's going on. But I believe the county council and the commissioners working together is going to be a key factor keeping that in check.
Great, thank you. Jeff, what do you think? What do you think should be done or could be done to ensure that expenses are kept in check?
The thing with inflation is it's compounding based upon the little steps that go along with spending. For instance, the Wall Street Journal had an article about how much it costs to buy a set amount of groceries, the exact same items, maybe 4 years ago, $100, and what it costs today, and it was $140. Now, that doesn't comport with the inflationary figures that the national inflationary figures are there, but what it does comport with is the producer of the food has an 8% or 6% increase, and then the grocery store has an 8% increase, and then everybody down the road, it eventually compounds to that 40% increase. So recognizing that, we would probably need to stem costs from that compounding reality. Go to the source of something rather than something that's been compounded 3 times down the road. Make competitive bidding part of the process. You do not want to hire the worst person to do the job just because they're cheap. Absolutely do not want to do that. But there are probably other people that might do the job for some of the large numbers that we're talking about, that if we were to shop around and compete, and they were to compete for that bid or that reality, maybe we could bring costs down that way. So I just think it's a cost factor that needs to go at every step of the chain.
Great, thank you. So we are nearing the end of our hour, if you can believe it. Time has gone quickly with good conversation. And then that will end this segment, and we'll move on to the candidates for coroner. But I want to give each of you an opportunity just to make some closing remarks. Is there anything you want to share with our viewers and the voters that you haven't had an opportunity to say? So Jeff, I'll let you start.
Well, I guess we have talked a lot. As far as more to say, I again bring a business acumen to the position. I also owned a restaurant in Centerville for a while. It failed. I'm not ashamed to say that, but it failed because there were too many costs and not enough revenue coming in, and that's kind of exactly what we're talking about in a nutshell for everything involved here. Bringing in more people and lowering costs. So I think the people that took over are struggled because they then folded into a new restaurant. So I don't know. I think the business acumen that I bring can really help the county, and I'm dedicated to serve. And I think that you'll see that my way of thinking through problems and analyzing things, given all data points, are the way to go about solving problems.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Aaron, any closing thoughts?
Yes. First of all, thank you again for this opportunity to come out and to share where I am and who I am. And I am a true public servant. I have been all my life. I grew up my father was a pastor, and everything I've done in my life has been on public service or public relations, and I have enjoyed that, and that is where my true heart is. And I really do care about Wayne County, the people of Wayne County, and making this a better place to live continually. I have built positive relationships with folks all across Wayne County through my 27 years here. My wife and son are both lifelong residents in Wayne County. I was happy and able to raise and grow a family here in Wayne County. My son graduated from Centerville High School, went here to IU East, graduated with undergrad, and now is getting his master's here at IU East, and works here in Wayne County full time while doing that. And I take pride in that, knowing that my family is from here, and my son continues to stay here. It's a great place to live. We have a low cost of living here in Wayne County. And my biggest thing is that I want to be accessible to the people of Wayne County, and not just sit around and wait, but be involved, be in the communities, be out, being transparent and being dedicated to Wayne County. And that's where I am, and that's what I've got to offer, and I appreciate your vote on May 7th.
Great. Thank you both. We appreciate you both putting your name on the ballot and being willing to serve your community. And thank you for your time with me this evening and sharing with our viewers. This will be shared on social media through Whitewater Community Television. We'll share it on our chamber page and other areas. So if you want to go back and listen to these answers again, just to refresh your memory or to share them with people who may not have been able to tune in, please do so. Stick with us. We're going to take a short break, and then we will be back to talk about the important office of coroner and listen to what our candidates have to say about that office. So stick with us. We will take a short break and then be right back.
Know what's below. When planting flowers, a garden, or doing any type of digging on your property, RP&L wants you to call 811 before you dig. Electric, gas, water, sewer, cable lines, and more may be in your yard. Don't take the risk of digging blindly. It's free, only takes a few minutes, and can prevent inconvenient service outages, expensive repair bills, serious injury, or even death. That's why calling 811 before you dig is Indiana law. Know what's below.
I'm Al Bledsoe.
I'm Ron Chappelle, co-host here with Elliot Probably Reserve, and we're at Cronin here in the city of Richmond, and we're going to be talking with several of their sales personnel.
To transition to the Cronin Cares, Albert mentioned earlier, a portion of the
Watch our program on Channel 20, WCTV, Monday evening at 8 p.m.
Hi, I'm John Duke with Wayne County Emergency Management. Spring weather is here. For the most current local updated information, we encourage everyone to sign up for public alerts through Nixle. The easiest way to sign up for Nixle is text 888-777 in the to field of a text message, and then enter your zip code in the body and hit send. For the most current information, whatever the situation may be, we encourage the public to sign up.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harlan, program host for Let's Talk Together. Join us on our next episode where we will discuss Parkinson's disease and Rocksteady boxing.
Rocksteady's now 850 worldwide affiliates, and what's nice is Reed Health was actually the first hospital to adopt Rocksteady boxing and bring it in. We were the 6th total affiliate, and now there's 850 worldwide.
Join us Thursday, 8 o'clock, Channel 20, WETV.
Welcome back. You are joining me tonight on In Focus Live, Candidate Forums here in Whitewater Community Television. I'm Melissa Vance, and I am representing the Wayne County Area Chamber of Commerce, and so pleased to partner with Whitewater Community Television and Western Wayne News for this series. And we just wrapped up a great conversation with two of the candidates for commissioners. And now I am joined in studio with a candidate for coroner. Thank you for joining me. We have Mr. Brent Meadows.
Thank you.
And wow, there are two of you that are running for this position, and we invited both of you. You were the one that was able to make it, and so we get to have a conversation, just the two of us, for a little bit. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and your background and why you're interested in this role?
Okay. Hello, my name is Brent Meadows, and I'm a born Wayne County person. Grew up in Greens Fork, and went to Hagerstown High School, economy school, and on to college. And I've been in the public safety forum for over 40 years, serving as a firefighter, a paramedic, communications, and a wide variety, including several years as a deputy coroner. And I have spent a lot of time in my career as a paramedic dealing with death. And I believe that the reason that I want this job is I believe that I have the ability to have empathy and to help families and friends of those that they have lost and guide them through the process to make it as understanding as it can be. I've spent a lot of years in this line of work, and I feel like I have all the training that I need to make this one of the most professional jobs in Wayne County.
Great, thank you. And if you have a question for our candidate this evening, please send that in on Facebook. We will be happy to ask that on your behalf. Tell us about the roles and responsibilities of the coroner and how your experience plays into that.
Well, the coroner's office is an office that takes care of people who have passed away while in the county, whether they live here, whether they're visiting, whether they're traveling through. And it's the office of the coroner to investigate the circumstances around the death, whether it be a natural cause or an accident or something more than that, and to make sure that we've gathered all the information that we can, and that we have made a determination of what has happened to the person who is deceased, whether that be by an autopsy or other investigations. And we put a report together and we file it with the state, and we make sure that everybody understands through the transparency of our office from beginning to end what the process was, and we go from there.
Great. And you mentioned a little bit about your background and your experience, but if there was one thing that you were going to point to in your experience that really makes you equipped for this role, what would that be?
Compassion. It's hard when you lose someone who's your family or your friend. And I want people to be treated like I would expect to be treated. And I want to treat them the same way. And when you lose somebody, families are lost. Friends are lost. It's widespread. It just doesn't start with one person. And I want to make sure that those people feel like that we have done everything to investigate and even honor those who have passed away and be as respectful as we can. And being in the field of a paramedic, I have dealt with a lot of distraught families and people who have passed away. And I feel like I'm very capable and equipped to do that.
Great, thank you. For a fun fact, is it true that the only person who is able to arrest the sheriff is the coroner?
Well, it sounds like fun. Actually, I believe the law reads that the coroner must be present when the sheriff is arrested.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that we are actually the ones that do the arresting.
Hopefully we won't need that here in Wayne County,
Right.
but
Yeah, I hope not.
yeah. So we often think of non-medical related deaths as those that are preventable. What are you seeing as the greatest cause of death in Wayne County right now?
Well, it's the drugs. The drugs and the overdose, which is one of the things that are on the platform. We're losing people every day to a variety of drugs that are coming in from all four corners of the United States and out of the country. And it has taken over these people who are addicted. I truly feel sorry for those who are addicted, the families that also deal with it, the friends that also deal with this. And we need to do a better job of educating people in what drugs will do. And one of the things we have planned is we're already in the process of writing a program to target the appropriate ages of school kids and talk about overdoses, and to explain to them when someone overdoses, it just doesn't affect the one who is deceased. There's families, there's friends. It's very outreaching. And so we want to educate them at a young age and try to get them on the right track so that they stay away from the drugs and they understand what would happen to them if they went down that path.
Sure, that's great. Talk about how you work collaboratively with Sheriff's Department and other law enforcement offices.
Right. Well, the old saying, there's no I in team. Partnerships is what this office will be about. We have to be able to work with the Sheriff's Department and all of the city departments. We have to be able to work with the fire departments. We have to be able to work with possibly the Department of Health. And so, again, we'll be very transparent, very professional about that. We will share information as needed. Hopefully we'll be able to get information we need and work collaboratively together to make sure that our investigation is precise and do what we need to do. And yeah, we cannot do it by ourselves. We have to be able to work with all the other agencies.
How large of a department is the Office of Coroner?
The office is, they have the coroner, and then they have the chief deputy coroner, and we have 5 deputy coroners, so we'll have a total of 7.
Great. How does your experience lend to leading that team in a cohesive way?
Well, I've been doing EMS for well over 3 years, and also have a consulting company that works primarily in emergency medical services and rescuing organizations that are struggling. So I've had several roles as CEOs of different companies where we would go in and work with them, retrain them, rebrand them, teach them how to work together collaboratively. And so I've had a lot of leadership experience. But probably the thing that means the most to me is that I would not ask anybody to do anything that I would not do myself. So I don't feel like I'm over here or I'm up on the pedestal and everybody else is working. If my team is out at 2 in the morning, I most likely will be out at 2 in the morning also.
That's a true servant leader.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the greatest challenge that your office would face in the coming year?
Well, you know, we've, for the most part, lived through COVID, and I don't know what's next. Anytime, if you watch what's happening in America, there can always be a catastrophic event. Maybe a big one, maybe a small one, but it could happen anywhere. And I always worry about that and how we would deal with that if we had an event that may cause several people to pass away. Do we have the training that we need? Do we have the money that we need to, whether it be conduct autopsies or house people until we can figure out where their final resting destination is? So it kind of ties into money, and we need to be fiscally responsible. But one of the main things is I expect the entire team that I've assembled or am assembling to be trained to the highest level. They will all go to the medical examiner coroner school, and we will work well together, and we're going to have continuing education, which is something that's never really happened before. We'll have mandatory monthly training. So when you sign on, if you want to work for the coroner's office, it's just more than going out. We're going to continue to train and learn every day, and I think that that's going to help us be successful to deal with anything that comes before us.
So as a follow-up to that question, we hear about emergency training for natural disasters, as you mentioned, with the healthcare departments or the law enforcement agencies. What does that look like for your office?
Well, I should point out that there's another office in Wayne County government called Emergency Management Agency, and it's sometimes well overlooked. But I hope to partner with them for programs like, there's a program called CERT, Community Emergency Medical Team, and it's where we teach individuals how to take care of themselves for up to 72 hours in case of a disaster. So that's a good program to have out there. And again, we're trying to develop a program to reach the children to talk about overdoses. And there's another program, I've learned some shocking news. There won't be any set numbers yet, but we have heard through Child Protective Services that Wayne County's got one of the highest infant mortality rates in the state of Indiana, and for a number of reasons. And we want to figure out what we can do to educate family members, babysitters, all that, to see if we can identify where the issues are and see if we can help fix those.
Great, thank you. We all have things that we feel really comfortable with going into a role, and then other areas where we might feel less comfortable or have some blind spots. What are your blind spots?
Well, I always thought that I was pretty comfortable with anything. But I think one of the blind spots is we're going to have to rebuild our relationship with some of the police departments. In the past, it's kind of turned into where maybe the coroner's office is not contacted as quickly as it should be. Or there's a lot going on investigatively and we haven't been called yet. And I want to look into that and see why. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with law enforcement and they know that we can work together with them. That's one of the blind spots I want to work with. The other is the unknown, right? I can try to prepare for everything, but just like when COVID showed up at our doorsteps, that was an unknown. And I don't know what's around the corner. But I hope that our training and our teamwork and our cohesiveness of working together will be able to handle anything.
Great. So tell us a little bit about what you think the greatest opportunities are. If there's an area that you haven't mentioned yet, what are the greatest opportunities? Where do you see other similar offices, whether it's other areas of the state or other areas of the country, excelling? And what are those opportunities for growth?
Well, I would like to take the coroner's office and make them accredited nationally for coroners and medical examiners. I think that adds to the professionalism of the office and just brings a higher level to us. That's important. The other thing is transparency. I've already had people reach out and talk about, they want to talk about their cases or their family members and things like that. we've already taken a step to be transparent. We already have a website, and it clearly says if you have a question or you need to contact me, here's my phone number, here's my email. Our plans are to keep that website up and running, and that the community at any time can reach us and talk to us and ask questions. We also will be an organization that will be glad to come out and talk to service groups and things like that. We need to educate people on what we do. You know, if we want to laugh a little bit, somebody said to me once, "You're going to change your name to Quincy." Well, you know, remember the TV show. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I think that making the community aware of what we do and what we can do and what we're willing to do is going to be the success of the organization.
It's a very important role that's often forgotten.
Right.
And so we appreciate you being willing to serve in that capacity.
Thank you.
So is there anything else you'd like to share with the viewers tonight that you haven't already shared?
No, I just think it's important to realize that we want to do the job that the community, the Wayne County citizens deserve. We want them to know that if they're dealing with a situation where they've lost a loved one or a friend, that we will handle that situation with the utmost professionalism, with empathy, and make sure that we do what needs to be done. So that's it.
Great. Well, thank you. Brent Meadows, candidate for coroner, Wayne County, Republican, and make sure you consider him as you go to the voting booths on May 7th, coming up in just a couple weeks. So with that, we are going to call it an evening and just remind you of a few things that we'll put up on the screen. Candidate forum next week will be with candidates for U.S. Representative District 6. Tony Foster will be hosting that. And then May 7th, right here on the IU East campus in Whitewater Hall lobby, the election night coverage with Eric Marsh from WCTV and Chamber Board member Jeff Carter. And then the absentee voting is up on the screen for you. There are several places you can go to take care of your voting now, whether it's early voting or absentee voting. But 301 East Main Street is where you would go on those dates. And then in-person absentee voting centers from April 29th through May 3rd, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at those locations on your screen. Lastly, I want to remind you one more time, next Friday evening, come out to IU East Vivian Auditorium and cheer on middle school students here in Wayne County who are learning all about civics and our government and the way it functions and competing for cash prizes for the first time. Your host that evening will be Rick Duncan from G1013, so we're excited to have him with us. And some of our elected officials will be judging. Thank you again for tuning in this evening. I'm Melissa Vance with the Wayne County Area Chamber, and thanks again to our partners, Whitewater Community Television, Western Wayne News. Have a great evening.